You're listening to Power Athlete Radio, a podcast dedicated to empowering your performance every damn day. Join former NFL pro and Power Athlete founder John Wellborn as he dissects the greatest minds in strength, conditioning, and more. So whether your goal is to be the hammer, destroy mediocrity, or simply move the dirt, you've come to the right place. Now with the warm-up done, let the gains begin.
I sent that email blast out to our newsletter because I was like reviewing all of the stupid, I fucked up. I basically pulled every lever week one. I was like calorie deficit, aerobic, more training, less food, this. And then all of a sudden it was like, I went and I was like, yeah. And then it stopped and I was like, I don't have anywhere to go. And then the problem was, and then my sleep started suffering. And I started getting this weird cortisol dump at 3:41 every morning.
Yeah,
and
I remember texting.
Oh, dude, and then the problem was I couldn't sleep, and then because I've written so much for SI on sleep, I know exactly what the cost of poor sleep does to you in terms of like aging and body fat and all this stuff. Yeah, I'm like, and then the problem was I'm like laying in bed, like reading this stuff over in my mind, and then I started going crazy. And then I was like super stressed of the fact that I wasn't sleeping, and then everything felt like insurmountable to the point my wife was like, what is wrong with you? I've never seen you shook in your life. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. And, but then the problem was I knew that we had like 8 weeks left, and I was like, do I abort this? No, because I'm not going to be Zach Evanesh and fucking abort this thing before it starts. I'm like, I will fucking put my shoulder to the wind and suffer through this motherfucker. And I did. And I suffered all the way to 260. Yeah. And the day I stepped on the scale at 260, I had like this, thank God. Yeah. I was so fucking scared to it was because that last 4 pounds would not come off.
Well, there was I want to say probably 2 weeks out, we put the girls to bed. And I'd portioned, I was at like 1,800 calories at the time, but I still had portioned it so I could have some cottage cheese at night. Like that was it. But this night, I ate it in the kitchen. Usually I would make it, take it over to the couch and eat it, but I ate it in the kitchen. And then I was like, well, I'm going to have some tortilla chips. And I just snacked away a little bit. And I was like physically and emotionally so upset. My wife was like, are you okay? And it's like, no, I just fucked up. We're 2 weeks out. And I had to go to the back room, and I was like so pissed off. And I came out like 10 minutes later. She's like, it's going to be okay. And I was like, no.
Well, at least you have a loving wife who tells you it's going to be okay. My wife, on the other hand, was like, no, I'm not equipped for this, and just would walk away. And I'd be like, I'm like, and then I had this moment of realization, and you guys have heard me say it, for years, nobody's coming to save you. I had this dark moment with myself at 3:41 in the morning where I realized that I was the only one that could fucking save me, and that there was nothing anybody could say or do to help me through this. I had to suffer through this and fucking do it. And that was an interesting, because I was like, man, maybe if I just maybe my wife just patted me on the back and said it was going to be better. Because I didn't grow up like that. If I were to say it to my mom would be like, the fuck are you? Yeah. Jesus Christ. So I was like, man, maybe that. And then I was like, no, I just need to suffer through this. I fucked up. And I knew I fucked up because I pulled too many levers. I was I thought I was going to pull every lever and I was going to get there in 6 weeks and then just coast. Yeah. And the problem was the body didn't respond like I thought it was. And now what I'm cautioning people against is make one change and see if it does anything. And then and then keep riding that until that change stops, and then add another change. Don't do everything at once. I did a fucking idiot, which is what I do before. It's I just do everything and everything works, and it didn't work. Yeah. And then the problem is then your performance suffers. And because I wasn't sleeping, and then I went to jits one morning. I'd been up since 3:40. I got up at 5. I went to jits at 6, and all of a sudden I was feeling really strange in the roll. And I just couldn't comprehend how to navigate these different positions. And even though I was fighting for my life, I felt like I was in a fight or flight moment. It was more survival than hey, I'm here to learn. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go back to jiu-jitsu until this thing's done. Yeah. And then the guy's like, have you been in? And I'm like, because I'm not sleeping. There's no way for me to handle what I have to do in my life if I can't sleep. Yeah. And so, so I got to go back next week. But I'm excited to do open mat with you guys.
Yeah, you're talking about, waking up in the middle of the night. And some of that is that catecholamine dump, but pulling too many levers, that's classic when you see people who are trying to lose weight, lose fat. You get this metabolic crash and they keep trying to drive those levers further and further, and then you get adrenal fatigue, that can definitely really happen. And then you're talking about the sleep and lack of sleep. And what's interesting there too is trying to think through things. And we know that sleep deficit, all of a sudden you start becoming insulin resistant.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You want thick, sidewalk splitting slabs of muscle? You want to walk into any room and turn heads like gravity just shifted? Then you need Jack Street, the same battle-tested methods I learned from over a decade in the NFL. Claim your 7-day free trial at powerathletehq.com/Jackstreet and let the gains begin. I knew like every one of these is playing in my mind. And then the worst part is I have all these different measuring tools, like the 8 Sleep and the Oura Ring and the Morpheus.
That are just yelling at
that
you.
Are all telling me that like, your HRV is 36 and your resting heart rate, like when I sleep, I'm like a 42 to 44. All of a sudden I was 60. And like all these things and everything's in red and it's like, what the fuck is going on? It's like aborting me. And then I'm going on the like the Morpheus, and the Morpheus is like track. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in my life. And I'm pretty sure I was like, man, my wife's either gonna like murder me, the kids are gonna murder me. It was like, and then this was we went out to a burger place. Everybody ordered and they brought my food and it was wrong. And I told the waitress, I'm like, my order's wrong. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll get you another one. I was like, no, just take it back and give me my money. I'm not eating. And Kate was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, you know what? Fuck these people. They fucked up my order. I'm not eating at this shithole.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it once. I did it twice. And at that point I knew, I was like, you know what? Like, this is crazy because I don't have an emotional connection to food. That what I have an emotional connection to is like sleeping and performance and feeling good. So like I never thought about, and I know this is kind of weird. I never thought about food as like the vehicle for all these things. I just figured like we eat as a way to fuel performance, let's say. I didn't realize that all of a sudden like being in that severe calorie deficit, because I think at one point, I was at like 2,400 calories for like 8 weeks.
Well, that's the thing. Because then
that's way too much.
On the second time around, John shot me. He's like, I think I'm going to do it this way. And he shot me that. And it's like 2,400 calories. And I was like, how tall are you? How much you weigh? And like I run the numbers. I'm like, yeah, you're in like a 1,500 calorie deficit, man. Yeah. Like you don't need to do it. And he was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I totally fucked it up. I don't know how I fucked this whole thing up. I just, I wonder if I messed up the calculations when I was doing the diet.
Yeah. I think
it was like there's no way.
Well, cause that one, so I did it where I just kind of stair-stepped calories down.
But you also didn't start aerobic work until you needed to.
So that's the thing. My approach was I'm going to take calories as low as I can without like decrement in performance or anything like that. And then
you started on the Redditrude.
And then I started just hammering GLP-1s. Yes. But no.
I want to give a shout out to our boy Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos on the Discord with his Redditrude.
I call him the Reddit Warrior. I'm going to change the screen name from Thanos to Reddit Warrior.
Yeah, perfect.
We do I do want to discuss this thing because Ben and I have been noodling on this, and there's some serious holes in this plot that we need to third man on.
Yeah,
okay, go on.
Someone with nutrition expertise. But yeah, I set I think my RMR was somewhere in the 1,600, so I set this basement at 1,800. It's like, I'm not going to go any lower. So I stair-stepped down to that. And then at 1,800 is when I was like, okay, now we're going to try and sprinkle in aerobic. And I found that the first week I did that, I tried to get extra aerobic in 4 days, and I was just tanked, just wrecked. It's like, okay. So then I backed it off. And it's like, I can do 2 days. And so it was really nice because then I found like we talk a lot about like minimum effective dose. That was like the max. I found my maximum effective dose before I burnt myself out. Because the whole time, even in those last weeks, I think we did, we had like sets of 6 RDLs in that last week. And I still PR'd, like I got 365 on that. So I was still PRing in that deep of deficit. And that was kind of my whole personal mission, because a lot of people just assume I'm going into deficit, I can't even think about performing well. And it's like, well, no, I think if you do it wise in a wise fashion.
You also train at 5 a.m.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Which is, it's a lot different than like where I like got a chance to get up and drink some coffee and eat 2 or 3 meals, and I'd be in the gym by 2 when the guys would come. Well, and so like training at 2 o'clock, like I can't imagine waking up, because I went to jits and I was like I'm either going to hurt somebody or I'm going to hurt myself, or I'm going to get fucked up. Like we were doing some no-gi stuff, and we were working like front headlocks, and I was kind of slow to react, and I ended up in this like fucking like dude weird like it just
cranking the neck.
Ended up in a bad position because the dude was real quick.
Yeah,
and I was too slow. I tried to like sit on my hip when like I shouldn't have sat on my hip. I should have fucking just fought the head off and fucking smashed him. And then we got into it like I was like, you know what, like. Right now, I'm like the we always joke that like the one dude you don't want to like end up with is like the 45-year-old recently divorced white belt.
Yeah, just squirrely.
Who's like fucking mad at the world because he's writing alimony and fucking child support payments and he's fucking living in an apartment and like I was like, dude, that's like a joke, and I was like, man, like I'm angry like this dude.
Yeah, and
I was like, you know what, like until I'm ready to go back with a more open sense of learning and less of just survival. I just need to be smarter. And then getting done with this week is going to be fucking massive because then everything just kind of opens up.
Well, but I think the 5 a.m. was possible because of the training style. If there were more athletic, dynamic movements, then I wouldn't have been there. But the beauty of hypertrophy work is just like, all right, the one thing I did have to do was like, I did have to give myself enough lead up sets.
You obviously didn't read my article about how the pump doesn't really pay dividends towards hypertrophy based on the recent research.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Well, we can discuss it.
I'll send that to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Check your spam folder.
Yeah, don't send it to my phone.
Yeah.
I don't get
you're obviously not getting the newsletters I'm sending. Fucking asshole.
But no. So I mean, for me, it was a big because like working with people, especially now, the people going through Hammer 90 now, they all were kind of in that mindset of like, okay, things are going to tank, and it's like, no, we're going to do this in a smart way where you slowly ease yourself into it. Still at an effective level, but everybody, I mean, people are hitting PRs and stuff, and it's just like, that's the most exciting thing.
So what you're saying is do some bodybuilding, a little bit of aerobic work, and don't eat so many calories.
Yeah.
Carby girl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are like, literally this was the week that they got the green light to say like, hey, if you want to start doing some extra work, do some extra work. Because that was the thing, is like, everybody, I mean, this is what you get when you get like highly motivated people. It's like, oh, I'm going to rip all the Band-Aids off right away. Yeah. And it's like, but then you have nothing. When you need to pull the ripcord, there's nothing to pull.
This was me.
Like, that's the thing. Yeah.
I mean, this was also John Lynch. Or not John Lynch, John Walsh.
Yeah.
John Walsh, one of the guys at JITS, he was in this thing, and all of a sudden he like was stalled out, and he was like, I'm just not going to eat for 3 days, and his weight didn't move. And he was like, I think I'm broken. And I was like, dude, just, he was a mess. But he also, he's old and broken and tougher than beef jerky. And
the purple belt?
Yeah, he's brown belt now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's busting his ass. Yeah, he's fucking great, dude. He's busting his ass to get his black belt. So I think that there's an interesting thing that you'll see. There's a funny dynamic. So Marty just got his brown belt. Arash is obviously been a brown belt for a while. John got his brown belt. And Noah, who I don't know if you guys met Noah, he's Shanji's godson. He just got his black belt. And so he's like 20, 21. So I think between like Arash and all the guys, like there was also a guy, Jason got his black belt. And so I think they're all in this kind of like rush to try to get like who's next. Mm-hmm. And so they're all like basically like Walsh is training like 6-7 times a week. Arash is training twice a day. And like they're just, these guys are fucking living the life, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, man, like how are you guys training like, and like they're not professional athletes. Mm-hmm. And how are you guys getting, 12, 14 training sessions a week is insane to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm stoked for them. But they're all locked in this Mortal Kombat. Like Danaher had a clinic, I think on Sunday for that guy that got brain cancer.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden I like somebody sends me a picture and it's Walsh standing in the background with like his Santa beard and this. And I was like, Jesus Christ. He's like everywhere. The fucking Waldo of jiu-jitsu. He's fucking everywhere. And like, God, Father Time's over here. Yeah. And like his knee's a mess and he's still killing it. No,
well, that's the thing. Yeah.
He's
like,
fucking tough.
He blew his MCL out or whatever. But that was also part of it, is seeing what was effective, I'm like 39 years old. It's like, well, when I was 29 years old, or for sure when I was 19 years old, like this was a cakewalk. But having to be methodical, because not just because age itself, but it's like, 2 kids and things like that. And so it's been good because the people who are in it right now are all kind of in the same walk. And so there's like the hard and fast drop in weight side of things. But like a lot of this, I don't know about you, like I essentially redesigned like my system or whatever for like.
You have a system?
Yeah, I got a system.
I heard you got a system.
Big system guy.
Did you get that from Luke Summers?
Yeah.
He helped you design your system?
Well, it's my system.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like just kind of the mechanics of how I go about my day eating and things like that, because those are, when we talk about like, okay, hammer 90, but then a hammer 91 the day afterwards, it's like,
that's a huge like piece of like, what is 90 plus 1 look like?
Yeah.
And then more importantly, like, you know, and I think we talked about this thing of like, hey dude, like, now that you have to up your calories, but that doesn't give you a license to eat like an asshole. Mm-hmm. And so for me, what I figured out is as long as I get 5 days out of 7, I go 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off on the aerobic work for like 30 minutes. And I get somewhere around 425 calories on the Morpheus. I'm fine. Like I can eat it like calories. Like I have no problem. Like the body composition didn't change, but I noticed that like if I don't get that aerobic work, all of a sudden things start changing a little bit.
So it brings up a good point because we're talking about metabolism, and one thing I was going to throw out there is it's we were talking about like in the stairwise protocol of dropping calories 200-300 until people tend to think of losing fat as just what we've always talked about.
Like linear,
yeah. And metabolism is very dynamic, so it works until it doesn't. And so people will just keep beating their head against the door trying to lose fat and not realizing how complex it is. But my question would be is, what is realistic once the program is over? Because that's always what I'm interested in is it realistic to ask people to continue to track calories and macronutrients, or do they need to run like a 90 hammer to get a baseline of what that looks like? And then, but when the program's over, how do you see, and this is for all of us, but how do you see eating going? Because I assume you guys don't track your calories every day. I know I eat intuitively, but
I do. So for me personally, I like to track my calories just because I tend to overeat on protein and fuck up everything else. Okay. Like, cause if like, and Paul Carter and I were talking about this, and he's like, oh dude, you know, it's a pain in the ass eating all this protein. I'm like, I eat like 500 grams of protein. It's really the only thing. Like he's like, oh, I wanted to eat carbs. I'm like, I have to like remember to eat the carbs.
Yeah.
Like we cooked those steaks and I was like, shit, we didn't have any carbs.
Yeah.
And like, so like, I don't really think about the carb as much as I should.
So you're punching numbers into your phone every day?
So what I do is I kind of have a general idea of how much. And so what I did is I just basically set my calories, and I just was like, all right, I know how many calories I need to eat in 4 meals. I just cut it into 3. And so I just did some time restricted. And I found that for me, if I'm going to be lax on the macros, time restricted eating works really well because it's just like how I get into caloric restriction easier. Mm-hmm. And so I can get into a little bit of deficit just by missing a meal. Yeah. And so that's easier. But I also found too, if I get like I'll eat like 100 grams of protein, I'll eat like 200 grams of carbs for dinner. Mm-hmm. And like that biggest meal of the day is like 100% like way better for me when I sleep. Yeah. I think what I was doing was I was eating like a decent meal, and then my biggest meal was post workout. Then I was eating like a light dinner, you know, the age old, like, what is it? Like eat like a king, eat like this, and eat like a popper. Wasn't that something about it? That fucked me up. I like a big carb meal before bed was massive for me. Like I felt better going to bed full than like feeling hungry. Yeah. Because then I wonder if also waking up at 3:41 was my stomach just fucking growling. Yeah. Where all of a sudden I like wanted to get up, but then I was like, if I get out of bed and eat something, this is going to get fucking bad. So I'm just going to lay here and suffer in bed.
Yeah. There's some thought on that carbohydrate backloading. I don't know if there was any research to support it, but that idea behind carbohydrates and serotonin release and helping with sleep. So I think the mechanisms are there. I don't know if there's any research, but
they did. I just reviewed a piece of research for SI that talked about, they looked at carbs at night versus carbs during the day in different times, and they monitored all this, and there was really no effect.
Yeah. See, and this is.
But where, I think, but there were like no physiological effect, but in terms of like well-being and emotion and sleep, the sleep was better when the carbs were later in the day.
And that makes sense to me.
See, and that's kind of where I hang. So first, to answer your question, I did on the way out, the 2 weeks afterwards, I measured just so I could get an idea of what that new calorie looks like. But now, like, as much as I tend to not support intuitive eating because it's real easy. Stress levels and things can change whatever your intuition and your hunger drive looks like, right? But now it's just been, I just talked to the Hammer 90 folks about this, like this internal hunger satiety scale where now I just wait till I'm about so if 0 is starving and 10 is like overly full, I wait till I'm about a 3 to eat, and then I eat till I'm about a 7 or 8. And it's just like, if I stay within that and I'm choosing kind of quality foods, not calorically dense foods, my weight really hasn't fluctuated much.
So that almost seems like intuitive eating as well, though, because you're still going off. You know, you're talking about stressors and everything else, like that affects that scale.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why it's so. This week leading up to this week, I had a few important phone calls. The week leading up to coming down here, and
but you were dieting pretty hard because I think wasn't your goal to fat shame people this week?
It always is.
It always is.
But,
well, let's talk about the Discord.
You got to jump on the Discord if you want to know about the Discord.
Oh God!
But yeah, so this
this
week,
fucking guy just woke up and like he needs a shirt that like I choose violence. Like what is it from Game of Thrones? When they're like there will be violence and she's like I choose violence. That was fucking Skutnick today.
Awesome.
It just happens. But yeah, so this last week that intuition got thrown and like I overate. But the nice thing, and actually it was because something you said when we were going through it, you brought up there was that study where they overfed for 1,200 calories and only gained 10 grams of fat.
Yeah. There
was a point when we were going through it where it was like mentally I was encroaching this like dangerous point of like not disordered eating, but it was like I was so afraid to overeat until you brought that up, and it's like okay, so like one day won't mess me up. So then I kind of zoomed out, and same thing,
Puts
like
it in perspective for sure.
and I zoomed out, and it's like okay, this week was rough, but then
did you start doing anything weird like cutting yourself in response?
No, just I was just down in bottles of Ipecac, just like
no. I was telling Ben that when I was in high school, there was a big deal where these girls were taking laxatives, and they called it like a reverse bulimia, even though it's not reverse, it's just
butthole bulimia.
Yeah, buttholemia. And they were like, eating disorders are real, and like bulimia, and they were like, you don't have to throw up to be bulimic, and like we were like, well, what do you have to do? And they're like, take laxatives. And I was like, so wait, all these girls were like eating and then taking a laxative and then just annihilating shit, and so. This is a good segment, right? So we got into a discussion on the Discord where they were talking about GLP-3. They call it GLP-3. It's really a GLP-1. They don't call
like
it
the newest
it's
iteration.
The newest one. It's glucagon, GLP, and then I think it's
I don't remember.
Yeah, well, whatever the third pathway is. And so one of the guys on there was like, and this guy Thanos was like, hey, I did an experiment on myself. I started taking these GLP-1s or GLP-3 rather. And he's like, I ate it was 280. I ate the exact same way. I just took these and I lost 50.
Yeah, he went from 280 to 230, I think.
Yeah, like 50, they were 235. So
something like that.
Yeah, 55 pounds or something, or 40, whatever, 50 pounds. Without changing his diet, eating the same way he ate at 280. And the only lever he did was just taking that. And so what Ben and I were talking about is, I mean, obviously it raises your metabolic rate to some extent. But if you don't change your diet, I don't know if like even taking a magical GLP-1 will somehow change the laws of thermodynamics, unless he had terrible diarrhea, which was what I kind of thought. But then I was telling Ben, I read a piece today where they talked about one of the side effects they're seeing for the GLP-1s is people have a slowing of like gastric emptying and a slowing of like whatever the mechanism to let you know to poop in the colon. Like I think it slows it, like numbs the colon or like whatever that however that works. And they were seeing people having like some prostate issues and other things because they weren't clearing their bowels as often as they needed to. And so I was like reading that and I'm like, totally fucking smoked that theory of me, because I was like, maybe, because I mean, like if you continue to overeat even on the GLP-1s, you shouldn't be able to lose 50 pounds in 4 months.
So one of the things,
because that's like 4 pounds a week. Which,
well, I put everything percentage, like if you weighed 280 percentage of body weight, because like in my mind, like the most dialed in person, you're going to maybe get like a 10% drop in body weight over 3 months. Like that's just because of metabolism, how it will start to shift and stuff along the way. So to lose like 20% body weight in that amount of time, like that's insane. I don't know. That's a lot.
I would just push back and say, I don't think what he was saying is factual. The GLPs, they act on hedonic signaling pathways. And so some of the circuitry that people aren't aware of is cholecystokinin and neuropeptide Y, which work on the hypothalamus, which signals down to the small intestines and large intestines. You were mentioning how they're not moving essentially nutrients through that system as fast. Well, that increases satiety. So whatever Thanos is saying that ate the same calories, you're right, it goes against thermodynamics, and so that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I would push back on that.
The other one, and it's funny, I talked to Parsley about this, and he's like, I've never put anybody on GLP-1 that didn't cut calories as a result to lose the weight.
Yeah, because of the signaling.
Because signaling. But he also did make an interesting point to me. Parsley's like, as an athlete, how many times have you sat down to eat a meal when you weren't hungry? I'm like, majority of my life. Like, I knew how many calories I had to consume on a day to maintain. And there was a lot of times where like I was eating and I wasn't necessarily hungry, but I knew I had to regularly eat. So, because if I got into a serious hunger issue, I was going to fucking way overeat, and then I would feel useless. Yeah. Like, I remember overeating to the point where you're just like, I just need to go home and go to bed. I remember I went on a date with a girl, and I ate way too much. And I was like, I'm going to go home now. I'm going to drop you off. And I just went home, and she was like, what happened? I'm like, I overate. I feel terrible.
Just had a little insulin nap. It's okay.
I'm done. I ate way too much rice. But so as we were kind of talking about it, I kind of mentioned it to him. He's like even if you were like a professional athlete who had kind of hot circuited or basically like bypassed his hunger, satiety kind of signaling to where you just know to like periodically eat. He's like, even if like that were to happen, you would still get into a situation where you're eating and you were uncomfortably full because it's not clearing the stomach. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, it's not as if like, and I just was like, well, I mean, unless you took like a laxative or something.
Well,
he's like,
you ever read up on like the DNP, what is it, 2,4?
Oh yeah. The fen.
Yeah. Whatever DNP.
That was killing all those people.
Well, no, it was that
weight loss drug, fen, back in the 80s and the 90s, where it was like they were giving it to like women and they were losing like 100 pounds in like a month because it was turning.
It sounds like
it's an uncoupling. It uncouples the mitochondria, right? And so that's, to my knowledge, the only actual drug that significantly raises metabolic rate because of the uncoupling.
Well, it sounds like ephedrine, which acted on the catecholamine system, but I'm aware of.
Was so dope.
Yeah, it was.
God, just get rid of that.
And
stuff.
so like DNP in the
but
literature,
it's an uncoupling.
Yeah, so within the mitochondria uncouples, so your body's just blown through ATP essentially, right? Because it uncouples at the electron transport chain. And
but the one question we asked the guy was like, well, if you did a test, I hope you did like a DEXA scan or this. He's like, I didn't do any of that stuff. And my comment was, the only time I've ever seen anybody hemorrhage that much weight, and I have seen people, like I've seen people get like stomach issues and go in the hospital. Like we had a lineman that got staph infection and lost like 30 pounds in like a month, or in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I had a buddy who had mono, and it was the same thing, like a severe case of mono, and he dropped like 50 pounds.
Yeah, but
it was like sickly.
It wasn't fat.
Yeah.
It was basically your
wasting.
body just shuttles muscle off of it because muscle's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. I'm like, the only time I've ever seen somebody lose 50 pounds in 4 months was either they got cut out of the house in the 600-pound life, or they ended up losing an insane amount of muscle. Yeah. And my comment was like, okay, you lost 50 pounds, but what if like 30 pounds of that was muscle?
I don't think you lost 50 pounds.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, so I tried to run the numbers. It's like, okay, well, with the diet that he does eat, he's probably holding, I wouldn't be surprised, 10 to 15 pounds of food in his gut, right? And so it's like, when you clear, this is what I talked to my wife about, where it's like, if you wake up heavy one day, chances are you just got to take a shit. Like, like if the fluctuation is like that. So it's like, okay, well, if you can account for maybe 10 pounds of that, but that's still 40 pounds of body mass that he lost somewhere else. And it's like, if you're eating like you have been, that means your glycogen stores are still full. So it's not like you're pulling water out. So yeah, I have a hard time believing 50 pounds. What would clear it up is if he had a pre-scan and a post-scan that showed this was the change. But without that, it's tough to really.
You can even though, DEXA, I mean, there's research that came out that showed you can manipulate DEXA overnight.
Yeah, the filters.
Yeah. Well, you can manipulate it with just your carbohydrate manipulation, a little bit of water loss, and all of a sudden it looks on DEXA as if you lost. I think they were showing 10 pounds of fat loss in a 2 or 3 day water manipulation just by carb restricting subjects.
Wow.
So, you can get past, but it was still only 8 to 10 pounds if I recall correctly. So,
yeah, I can't make any sense of it to the point where I did this deep dive on Retatrutide and watched this guy Chase Irons on YouTube is like a bodybuilder who's like a big proponent of it. I must have watched like 20 of his videos.
Of the GLP-3?
Yeah, these guys use it. I mean, he's the guy that does like really, really high anabolic levels. Like he was taking, I think, like something like 10 to 15 grams of testosterone. He was doing a gram a day of testosterone or 2. I mean, like these astronomical things. Yeah. And the way I got turned on to him was actually I had Sean Amar on the podcast. I don't know if you guys saw that one on visceral fat.
Yeah. He doesn't even read a newsletter. So
he doesn't listen to the podcast.
Where am I?
The flip phone doesn't have a podcast app.
So I had this doc who's big on visceral fat. He ended up doing a consult with this dude and like did all the scans and was like, it wasn't on this podcast. We did it kind of the after, like the outtakes. I don't think Jacob cut it in there, but he asked me, or what I asked him was like, after looking at the scans of these bodybuilders, he's like, I've seen a level of visceral fat that is like nothing else I've ever seen. Where these guys look healthy and muscular from the outside, but like the visceral fat packing around the heart and the organs is like literally horrible. It's insane. And I'm like, and he goes, and these guys are super lean, but he also made an interesting one where he said that like being able to physically see your abs without any fat, like he goes, you want to have a strong midsection, but you want like a small layer of subcutaneous fat over your abs. If it's too lean, he goes, that's a sign of unhealthiness. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But
makes sense.
Yeah, but so long story short, he was telling me about this guy. So I like kind of was like, all right, let me Google him. And then he had like fucking talk after like just like endless amount. So I did this deep dive into it, and there was never a mechanism of like, you can eat like an asshole, you can eat whatever you want, and this is still going to burn. Like, no, he didn't say that. He's like, this will control your satiety and allow you to diet. So in a sense, what it allowed people to do was just like be more comfortable in caloric restriction. Yeah. Whereas instead of me like laying there at 3:41 in the morning, fucking contemplating, everything from like running away from home to suicide, as like, I'm like fucking laying there.
Dude,
I'm like, what if I just ended my life?
The number of times I had to talk you off the dietary ledge in those last couple of weeks, it was like every time we would try and connect about something with the collective or something, we'd take a hard right turn. He's like, man, this sugar fast. I'm thinking we could really do this. Like, no, man.
Dude, I'm not kidding you. I was throwing out life preservers, just hoping to somebody to grab it and be like, dude, and you wouldn't let me. No. And I was like, I don't know how the fuck, I'm over there eating pickles and sauerkraut being like, this isn't helping me.
No,
I still to this day, I don't know if it was like, I don't know what the fuck happened, but I've never in my life ever like doubted anything in myself. Like I'm just like, I'm not a
well, that's what was wild about it. Cause usually it's like, you're the one that's like, no, like soldier on,
fucking
like,
go.
Just do
Let's
it.
just go.
And you were like those last 2 weeks, just a mess. And it's like, cause I'll talk on speaker usually when
his
I'm
wife's
home.
like, who is this guy? This guy's a total pussy.
Well, and my wife is in the background like, what's going on? It's like, John's just having a hard time with dieting right now.
And it wasn't the dieting. It was the fact that I wasn't sleeping. And I've realized that sleep is my fucking superpower. Yeah. Like if I can sleep, I can deal with everything. If I can't sleep, everything feels magnified to 1,000. Things that wouldn't bother me, everything. Like I became like so hyper focused on everything in my life and all this weird like microaggression in this. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, why am I being so petty right now?
See, you definitely become more sensitive to that as you get older as well, that sleep deprivation, because when in my 20s, not a big deal. Kalani comes in the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
huge difference.
And I would love to talk to Doc about this because as I age, I'm starting to get a better understanding of how important sleep is, but I still think part of it is the stress surrounding sleep. Like you said, like you're awake and you're like, man, I know all the downsides of this.
I like, this is where I think being smart, and not that we're smart, but like maybe well versed and educated, like having access to a lot of good information and really understanding it is a detriment.
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I just be a simple moron?
Well, just being unaware, because that's the thing. And like you said, you got these devices and stuff. I'm the same way. Like my watch will tell me like, oh, last night was poor, and it's like, man, I tried as hard as I could. Like,
dude. So this thing tailed off, and then I went on that unreal adventure. We drove to Oregon, and I basically went on that off-roading thing. And I had like a
good time.
it's fucking great.
Yeah.
Dave Spanton, who's our buddy who used to work with us for the military stuff, he worked for this company called Kamook, and they make all this like kind of bitchin' outdoor camping shit. And they have this like pretty killer like vehicle mounted hammock, but it's like a hammock for like actually like fucking big people. It's not like a little hammock; it's massive. And these things are all like super bougie, right? So he like I like hit up the company, and he like put me in touch with the CEO guy, and the guy kind of blew me off, and I was kind of like, I'm not gonna spend like $1,000 on this fucking thing. But Dave's like, hey, I got one, just like come get mine. So I went over and got all of his stuff, and I was like, you know what, like set it all up. And I'm like, he's like, have you ever slept in a hammock? I'm like, yeah, like on vacation, like when we were in Brazil, I slept in a hammock every night, and I loved it. And he's like, all right. So I set this whole thing up. Has like a string over the top, and so I had like a tarp over it and like a blanket, and obviously it's like 60 degrees in Oregon, and like the most beautiful thing, I'm just like sleeping in this hammock in like a set of shorts and like a North Face jacket with like a blanket and this like tarp over me. I have never slept so well in my entire life. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And then like I was laying there, and like it started to kind of like rain, and I could hear it over the tarp. And I was like, God damn it, this is the best. And it was like the best sleep I'd had. Yeah. And I realized, I was like, fuck, I wonder if like, and this is another thing I was thinking about. I wonder sometimes when you get into this like weird kind of like sleep stress, if changing your environment of like sleeping in a different bed, sleeping somewhere else, maybe sleeping on the other side. Like, I wonder if like changing the environment, because I slept the best I'd slept out there, but I was also sleeping outside. Like I wasn't having to be micromanaged on the phone. The only stress I had was not dying or wadding up the truck, which was actually very, very stressful. Because the fact that like I was like way too big a truck trying to squeeze things through, side by side Jeep trails, and that was stressful. But we had no provision for food, which really stressed me out too.
Well, I think it's the disconnection, like you said with the flip phone, right? You're trying to create a disconnect. But because my experience
does, there's like no trying, no literally forces that.
And I just,
is it good or bad?
I think it's been great. Yeah, it's been great for me mentally. I mean,
it's been horrible when we're trying on the other side to get a hold of you. But
I know Erica's the same way, because like with the iPhone, I could set certain people to come through when it was on silent. But with the flip phone, none of that. I mean, if it goes on silent, everybody's silent. So I'll look at it through the days, here and there, and see several people.
What do people say or do? What's the look on their face when you pull out the flip phone?
Yeah, I mean, it's been definitely mixed. I've had some people who are like, I've seriously been considering going back to one. I'm addicted to all these social media platforms. And then other people are like, how do you function? And I mean, just as an example, it's kind of cheating. I had to bring back the iPhone for this trip. Because
we saw the blue bubble.
Yes, yeah. So the blue
the
bubble.
The fact that we were on our group text and it was green, I was like,
oh, I'm sure.
Who the fuck
No, the real one.
This?
Well, I was like, I bet they cut me out, which is totally cool, because I would have too. I was like, I bet they cut me out.
Well, you should have seen him rage cut you out of the Instagram. There's, because, we got that Instagram group chat going too. And one day, John's like, who the fuck is deleted user?
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, Waldman jumped off Instagram, and then John created a new one without you. And he's like,
I was like, it's like, fuck Waldman.
Screw man. Hey, I get it.
I was like, you selfish son of a bitch. Yes. I can no longer send you ridiculous memes, which is really I'm
really missing Sully's 50 messages every day.
We got dude.
Burning.
He's altered both of our algorithms.
Yeah,
because of the stuff he's doing.
To the point where I see it come through, and I'm like, God, if I click on this thing. Yeah. What's the one that we got recently?
About the Crusades?
Oh, yeah. So he was sending us all this stuff about how, like, the Christian, like, we're going to have a modern crusade to take back the Holy Land from like the
here we go,
the spread of Islam. Oh, and like it keeps showing these clips from Kingdom of God, with Orlando Bloom and like the whole deal, and like now I'm just getting pitched all this, and I'm like, I said to Ben, I'm like, is this a real thing? or are we just getting pitched this on the algorithm? Like, is this as big a thing as I think? Because I'm getting like 100 of these a day.
Yeah. That, in all fairness, though, he does balance it out with a good amount of Oasis memes, and then
a lot of hardcore punk,
and then like a lot of hardcore stuff.
But what's weird is that the punk that he's into isn't the punk that I grew up on.
Well, he's probably punching the air right now hearing you say it punk, because it's not punk, it's hardcore, and he'll tell you all about, and it's
well, but it's labeled within like the punk genre.
Oh.
I know, but like for me, punk is like like the Dead Kennedys.
That's 'cause you're
Social
old.
Distortion, because I'm old.
I'm thinking Blink-182, Good Charlotte.
That's no.
But yeah, Sullivan has shaped our algorithms.
Well, he sends me a lot of good tinfoil hat stuff, so I'm fairly convinced that there are underlords, lizards underground living in caverns that are controlling everything, and I'm pretty sure that like there's a secret war of like lizards versus some other alien race that we're just not abreast of. So so I get a really interesting like vision of that stuff, and I'm like what the fuck am I reading? This is wild.
And then I also get plenty, because my wife will send me sourdough stuff. So it's like, there's sourdough. I got this Venn diagram of sourdough, the conspiracies that Sully sends, and then all this hardcore stuff. And
so I pulled up an article that was put out by a liberal magazine that the final level of entering conservative right-wing, like reactionary, is when women start making sourdough bread. And I was like, I'm here for it. It's
very popular.
I was like, I am so excited for Bree to bring her sourdough, to the point where she sent me, I ordered a starter, and I'm going to become my own sourdough maker. And I'm going to start a company called the Sour Hoe.
I like it. Are you doing sourdough? Is that where that came?
my wife does.
Okay, Erica does as well.
Yeah.
My wife's not making sourdough. You know why? Because she's obviously not a right-wing conservative. She's more liberal. Yeah. Right? So
Erica's pretty far left, so that's
she's
a little
maybe she's
outlier.
not, because if she's making sourdough, she's come back to the right.
Maybe so. Well,
Yeah.
we need to bring her here.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, you're a right wing. You're like a Charlie Kirk fan. You are a Tucker Carlson fan that you're making sourdough. They related like Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, and MAGA with women that make sourdough. And I was like, I don't know. I've been seeing these girls post sourdough, and all I'm like is I don't care about their politics. I just want to eat all that sourdough.
Dude, that's the thing. And that's the best part about being out of this restriction now, is like, because she was getting into the sourdough stuff and really making good stuff. And it's like, I'm gonna not have any carbs for breakfast, so I can have half a slice of this later tonight. And whatever. If she's closeted MAGA, just keep making the sourdough.
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
This is another thing I noticed, is whenever the girls that are making the sourdough, usually the best looking ones are the MAGA girls. And I'm like, the right wing like sourdough girls are always pretty cute. I've never seen any like left winging.
That could be AI though.
It could be. It's probably AI.
Anything.
It could be the algorithm just pushing me like conservative chicks because I'm following now on the sourdough pages.
Anything on Instagram now is just AI, so it's not real.
That was kind of wild too when I got out right before I got off social media, is how much is AI generated.
Reality's
That's
dead.
crazy.
Reality is dead.
That was crazy.
Well, that's why events like we are this weekend are so important. So when people say they don't see value, it's like, how could you not? You're basically, now what you're doing is you're getting invited to a private event for social interaction with humans.
Yeah. You're 0 degrees of separation.
With 0 degree of separation. Yeah. And I'm like, the fact that you are so stuck and plugged into the matrix that you cannot see human interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing, like, and I'm sure you see it with your students, but it's just, it's so wild how something so quickly has altered human interaction, because it really is. I mean, I was talking to my wife, we've had quite a few students who have broken the rules using AI. And
how do you sniff that out?
Well, so
I can read it and I know if AI writes.
So that's the thing. So usually it'll raise a red flag reading it, but this one student, one of the things AI does is it'll cite things that don't exist. So they wrote this lab report, and so every article has what's called a DOI number, right? And my graduate student who was checking it, they're like, "Hey, I don't think this is right." So I just quickly checked the DOI numbers and it's like, "Oh, that's not a real citation." So I called them in. And the wild thing is, and I talked to my wife about it because she's a high school assistant principal. It's like the students have no shame in that they're caught using it, but it's like their moral compass is shifted to where they don't see what's wrong with it. And it's like, man, like you guys have.
That's a good way of putting it.
Like you don't have any pride in the product you're putting out now, right? Because that was the whole thing. Like when I write something, it's like, well, and this is what I get tripped up with research. It's like to publish something is kind of a big deal because it's like, this is my thing. Like, and this is out there. And once it's out there, it's open for like criticism.
What do you guys have you guys heard anything about the Mike Israetel deal?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you got a flip phone.
Well, why would you fucking know flip phone? Like, are you fucking? I'm gonna have like Hunter. I'm gonna introduce you. I'll be like, next up next we have Hunter flip phone Waldman.
Yeah, there we go. I'll go by that. But there's also just like a counter to that. It's kind of nice being, I guess, a little ignorant to things like Mike Israetel. I know who he is, and I know he's super popular.
So he's our RP strength, and so what happened was his dissertation was online, and somebody went and pulled it. And they went through it, and it was like repetitive, fraught with errors, spelling, like it was a complete mess. And this guy did a pretty long deep dive on like the citations were fake, the research was like none of the statistics lined up. He had like sections that were cut and pasted that were like it was really poor.
That was his dissertation.
Yeah.
So has Mike responded to that?
Well, he did, and came out and said they uploaded a draft,
like the wrong draft,
and that this isn't the draft, and then they uploaded the edited final one, but then the guy pulled it and found out that the metadata told us that it had been edited, and that not just edited, but the entire thing had been edited like 3 days prior.
Yeah.
So then they said, like, we need you to submit the legitimate one, and then he came out and said, yeah, the one that was on there the first time was the real one. And I lied about it.
And that's and this is my.
You pull his letters. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen.
Well,
I think he got. I don't know where he got his degree.
I think he was at.
It was online, wasn't it?
No, I think he was down with the Stones at East Tennessee.
Was it Liberty?
Oh, you're right.
I think he's East Tennessee State.
Okay. Well, I mean,
under Mike Stone.
Yeah.
So the people that were going, like, these people have not let up on him.
Well,
and the only way I know was I like somebody. Do you remember when we were in the Discord and that guy was asking me what I thought, and I was like, I don't really like his training. Every time I've listened,
you know
to
who
him,
that was?
Who was that?
Thanos.
Was that Thanos?
That was Thanos' intro to the Discord.
Oh. And we got into it, and then he was like, well, why don't you like him? Why don't you like him? And I was like, God damn it. Then I had to go back and watch all the videos.
I don't know if it's good. I have an encyclopedic memory of the Discord. I don't know if that's, I think I need to get off the Discord for a bit.
So that was Thanos?
That's when he first got on. Yeah.
Okay.
But
the problem that I have with Mike is, one, I think for somebody that waves around a PhD, I think he doesn't understand physiology. I don't think he's ever trained at a high level. I don't think he's ever trained anybody to a high level. He's never competed anything at a high level. And then he gets a bunch of weird plastic surgeries, and and then he showed up and trained with the guys from the B team. And that was funny. I was rapping with those guys like, how was he? And they were like, who gives black belt? they did, and so they kind of like there's just a lot of fabrication about him, and he's kind of a sociopath. I think watching his videos, he seems like a sociopath. So the fact that he obviously pissed somebody off enough to go pull his dissertation, and then the guy went through it and was like, this is a fucking joke. How did you get your PhD? He went and edited it, and then finally came out and he was like, no, that was a real one.
So I'll say out loud, I welcome anyone to go pull my dissertation.
Yeah, and a couple things. My understanding is the guy that pulled it is not an exercise physiologist and is in the camp, which we hear a lot about how exercise science, the nature of exercise science, exercise physiology is we have underpowered studies by statistics rule. And so there are a lot of holes when you compare it to like chemistry or some of these harder sciences that, and my understanding was first that guy maybe came from one of those sciences, but kind of my take on it, and maybe it's because having just wrapped up my own kind of freshly, what people I think don't understand is to get to the point of completion, there are a series of checks along the way that require a lot of signatures from a lot of other people. And so do I think Mike was foolish to try and put out an edited, like if that was the real one, that was the real one. Hey man, yep, cool, it sucks. But 4 or 5 other PhDs signed off on this saying that it was good enough. And so that's kind of the thing, like, because I do think I'd be happy for people to pull mine as well. But at the same time, I don't know about you when you went through yours, like by the time I got to publishing, it was like, man, I wish I would have done this different. I wish I would have done that different. I'm still happy with what we did. It was still pretty sound science, but you get to the end point. It's like, man, I would have changed a few things just because I know now. And that's kind of like with every study, right? And that's why we have limitations and stuff. But what's getting lost in all this is there is a committee of already established professors who said this meets the standard. And so while I think Mike maybe messed up a little bit,
Seems like they messed up a lot.
yeah,
but there should have been people in there to kind of safeguard against us.
Well,
Should have, but
And-
when you've
and-
served on so many committees, and this should not be the case, and you have so many dissertations coming through, these individuals who are in their 50s, 60s, how old is Dr. Stone?
yeah, I mean,
And I'm not saying he did this,
but maybe they're not reading it as closely. Maybe they're,
you start to kind of get into
but I mean, he also knows what he submitted. And he
But that's
knows
the
that
thing,
it was posted online and for all the world to see. I mean, I would be like, I'll just tell you guys, like when I gave that talk at Sornex on authenticity, like my whole premise was like the reason that most things feel authentic is most of what people say and do are not their own thoughts. They're just using other people's, and that's why it feels inauthentic. And so I gave this like really bitchin' talk. I was super excited to give it, and I went home. And then like probably 3 weeks later, I was looking for a video to post on Johnny Wad. And so I was going through, and I like Saturday morning, I go through and I watch all these videos and I try to figure out the rest day. And I pull up this like Jordan Peterson talk from when he was in university that was like 25 years ago or 20 years ago, right? Like in the beginning of this. And he gets in and he's talking about like the reason that people are inauthentic or that and he almost gives like the verbatim of what I said. And I was like, did I fucking steal this from this guy?
Yeah.
And then I had this like existential moment of like, did I like get up and present something that I had heard and I'd never seen the video? Yeah. And I think I talked to Ben, and Ben's like, first of all, this is not an original thought.
Yeah.
Like he got it for whoever he got it from is probably the same person that you got it from. And it had to probably do something with like, rhetoric and philosophy and this, and like, so then I started kind of a deep dive, and there was like a whole bunch of like Cicero stuff and everything. So I know the train of thought that he followed to get there. And I took a similar one. It just was like, I had this moment of like, did I just fucking listen to this and forget? And I robbed this poor guy. And then I didn't give him credit, but then again, I'd never seen the video, and it was totally obscure that it came upon it. So, but I think like that level of self-awareness is important, and like to know that like, hey, if I'm going to put this out to the world, it's going to have to be good. So, and when you piss enough people off,
that's my thing. Right.
Like
is
he
the
gets up and he's
extension
talking
of
about
this.
like, you know, he has a RP strength and we help diet in this. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm just going to get plastic surgery because I don't want to do the dieting piece.
Well, and it could just be for show, but he's said multiple times, like, I'm smarter than anybody in this space and things like that. And so that's my, just in general, not with him, but there are plenty of people who have the letters behind their name who take that kind of stance. And it's just like, to me, how I was taught and brought through science is that's almost the antithesis of what you're supposed to do. Yeah, for sure. Like that's not like you're, one of my committee members told me like, hey, you have to remember, like when you finish this, you work at a university. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a PhD. Don't be that dick who makes everybody call you Dr. Skutnick, because we're all doctors, right? And like, and it's true.
Good thing your Instagram handle, or more importantly, your Discord handle, isn't Dr. Ben.
Yeah, well, yeah. Just my mentality. But no, that's because that's kind of my issue with all this. Is like, man, like, so you made a mistake, whatever, like. But then you took this route of like, I'm infallible. Like
and you also refer to yourself as Dr. Mike.
Yeah. And
whereas I have a, like, did you ever see the Seinfeld when he's like, they're not doctors, they're dentists, you anti-dentite son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, that's like my favorite one. I'm like, okay, so like I call Doc Parse, I call him Doc because he's a legitimate doc. Yeah. Like when I banged my elbow and had bursa, and like it blew up, I like called Doc and went over to his place, and he basically drained my elbow with like a needle and a syringe at like 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning in his kitchen. And He's like, you know, and he's like, need anything else? Like he's legitimately a doctor.
Yeah.
Like Doc Parsley is a doc, so he's Doc. Like, you know, like Matt Zanis, Dr. Tim. Like I'm like, okay, so like they're doctors of PT. Like I just am always wondered, like who do you refer to the doctor as the dentist? Is that the Seinfeld thing?
Yeah, I mean,
like I figure if you're sucking fucking fluid out of my elbow on Sunday morning, you get a doc.
Well, I think it comes down to like, what are you trying to elicit by putting that out there, right? Like, because my wife also has her PhD, like I said, assistant principal. Nobody at her school calls her Dr. Skutnick, right? And I think it's because like you said, when people hear doctor, they automatically are going to think of medical physician. Yeah. And there is a certain historical status that means. They are the problem solvers of health, right? And not to say that PhDs don't help with these problems and things like that, but it's like, I don't want that burden. Like, I don't want people coming to me, because the way our training is, if we don't know, we're supposed to say, I don't know. Whereas a medical doctor, if they don't know, they're supposed to investigate like that. And so it's like, my training has taught me to kind of almost skirt that authority, because it's like, I know a lot about a very, like,
so do you just lord over people and are elitist in other ways?
Yeah. Just the Discord, man. Just in the Discord. But no, I mean, that's my thing is.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a scoreboard. I'm going to be like, how many people has Skutnick driven away?
Dude, you don't need to keep a scoreboard, because I'm undefeated. Like, that's all you need.
Oh, goddamn. I'm like reading this and just being like, this, do you know how ridiculous this sounds to me? Like, I remember like talking to my mom as a kid, and I remember I can't remember what it was related to, but like, you know, somebody said something to me, and my mom's like, words are not going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, like the age old sticks and stones might break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Like this is your shield. Like, if you are so weak-minded that words hurt you to the point of like, but we live in this world now where words are weapons, and because these weapons cause me stress, now it's an emotional thing. And, you know, that was coddling the American mind, where it's like, dude, you're a 48-year-old woman. I mean, sorry, you're a 48-year-old man. Like, you're a father, you've done all these things. Like, words on the internet are just fucking words. Or, you know, you can do, just get a flip phone and not fucking check it. And you know what? All that stuff goes, it's like, they had this whole thing on like cyberbullying. Mm-hmm. And these girls were getting bullied on social media and TikTok and this girl committed suicide. Mm-hmm. And I, like, my comment, and I probably shouldn't have voiced it, but I was like, at which point as a parent do you just turn off the Wi-Fi and smash the devices? Yeah. Right. Well, you can't get away from them. No, you legitimately can. Yeah, you can. You can give them a fucking flip phone, and you can not let them access a computer. And it's like, well, the kids at school are this and this. And I'm like, okay, so they're sending them behind the backs. Move to a different fucking place. Like, if you told me that the end state was that, like, my daughter was going to commit suicide because of something online, I'd be like, you know what we're going to do?
Burn the world down.
Yeah, we're going to turn the Wi-Fi off. You're going to flip phone, and we're going to a fucking cabin in Montana with the fucking Unabomber.
Yeah, you're right. And it's amazing, you know, how many adults have come to me with when they see the flip phone, and they're like, I don't know how I could function. I have all these things. I'm like, I've got those things too. Yeah. I have to check email. I have to respond to people. When we're going through the adoption, I had to be able to answer documents and sign them, but I've figured out workarounds. And how did we function up until, what was it, 1995 or 2000, before the first non-flip phone?
No, I mean, dude,
that was like 2008.
When was the first iPhone?
I remember I got a phone when my agent sent me a phone so the teams could call me. It was 99. And I got this phone, and I was like, and it was just like, I was like, what the fuck is this thing? Because before you had to leave messages. And then you go beep, and then like people leave a message, but I don't. And then I got and then he sent me a BlackBerry, and then we had Blackberries. Mm-hmm. I had a BlackBerry right up into the point where like they stopped servicing Blackberries. Like, I was never going to have a fucking iPhone, and it kind of fucked me a little bit because I don't have the pictures that I wanted, because I had them on my BlackBerry, and then I got an iPhone, and like everything started like in maybe 2000 or 09, maybe 2010. So like the entirety of like my life was on fucking Blackberries. And I'm so sad that BlackBerry lost that war, because it was such a better device. You know? Yeah,
I think, you know, I can't remember what book I read, but they talked about Napoleon had this practice where he wouldn't respond to mail the first time it got sent to him. So if somebody sent him a letter, he would read it, but he wouldn't respond unless they sent something within the next 3 weeks. Because if they sent something again, he was like, okay, this must be important. But if they didn't send something again, it's like, well, I'm glad I didn't waste time doing this. And I read that, and ever since I've read that, like, I've kind of absorbed that. 'Cause same thing, like email and all this. The one thing I like about my smartphone, though, is I can turn on
reminders.
I can turn on
nudge.
The people can see that I read their text messages, right? I want people knowing that. But I do want people knowing, because I will, if you text me, I'll look and I'll see you texted me. And it's like, I'm just not going to read that right now. So I would like it, because then people know, like, hey, I didn't see your text message until this showed up, right? Because I do think, especially with like my undergraduate students, it's like, man, they'll email at like 10:30 at night and then ping me again at 6 a.m. like, hey, why haven't you responded? It's like, and it's like, and it's like a one line, and so
so for me with emails, there has to be a 24-hour like break. If you send me an email and like you like hit me within 24 hours of like, why even get this? I'm probably just going to delete it. Yeah. And then at that point, I'm just going to go fucking stone face on you. Yeah. And just because like you, and I give people the benefit of the doubt. Like if I send an email and 3 days later I haven't got a response, I'll follow up and be like, hey, I know things get busy. Let me just follow up on this. But then again, like I know a lot of times people read shit and they don't respond to it. But I think because I still remember the answering machine days, and it's like, man, like, because then caller ID came out, right? Yeah. So then you could like screen who was calling, and you could not pick up and be like, oh, we just weren't home. And it's like, no, we were home. We just didn't want to pick up the phone. And it's like, those were great times. Those were amazing times.
Because then you could choose the conversations you wanted to have. But now it's like, the mindset is like, no.
Do you remember driving somewhere and having to pull over and look for a payphone?
Dude, I remember.
Are you guys that old?
Yeah, I do remember that. And then I remember my dad, the company he worked for, bought him a bag phone for the car. Like, you remember it like set in the center console, and I remember when he got that, I was like, we're living in the future. Yeah. Like, what is this? And I used to drive around and talk on the phone. I used to sit in the garage and call my landline, my house's landline. My dad would get pissed because it cost like $27 a minute to use those phones. But it was just like, this is wild. So I remember the whole thing. But now it's like, when you said you were going to flip phone, it's like, yeah, because they also make dumb phones, which they look like smartphones, but you have like.
But you can put apps on them.
You can get like maps and like.
And now you're back to an off.
But you can't get social media. They won't support the social media apps.
So what's his name? Was it Prince? The guy who did Triple Canopy. Eric Prince. I think he has a phone, and like there's some other like phones that are like off the grid phones. Yeah. So the only way that you can go off a grid is in a Faraday bag. It's like everything's tracked. But they have these phones like because there's. Like every app has like back-end software to like actively. I mean, I didn't realize to degree until you talked to my brother, who's criminal defense attorney, and like listening to how much information they have on us. Oh yeah. Like he's in these murder trials and he's like looking at these guys and it's like, you were talking on speakerphone while you were fucking killing these people, and not realizing that the cell phones were like triangulating and towering and hearing and all this other stuff, and they're like putting it up. He's like, I can't believe they have all this. And my brother's like, you're a fucking idiot. You're doing illegal stuff with like a fucking communicator in your pocket. This is Buck Rogers. And he's like, the information that they're able to glean from us, he goes, is scary. He goes, and he goes, 20 years ago, if they said, hey, you're going to have to carry a device around where we're going to be able to track every one of you, people would fucking lose their minds. Yeah. It was like, remember, like, hey, we want to do genetic testing. Everybody was up in arms. And then they turned into 23andMe and people are fighting to get in there. Yeah. I'm like, dude, like it's crazy how people voluntarily give up their rights for some form of, ease and comfort. And dude, I'm 100% at blame for this thing. And the issue too, and this for having kids with your wife, all of a sudden my wife texts me. And if I don't respond immediately, she keeps sending stuff because she's like, I know you're either at your computer or on your phone. So when you don't respond to me, it upsets me. And I'm like, God damn it.
See, we're flipped. My wife is really good at, just ignoring the phone during her work day and stuff like that. And I'll text her and then she won't respond. So then I just have like a conversation with myself and it's like, man, I really wish my wife would be able to respond to me. And then she like, at the end of the day, she's like, I was busy all day. What were you doing? It's like, I'm sitting at my desk.
I was fucking around on Discord, fucking hurting feelings, just burning things to the ground.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the book Deep Work by Cal Newport? Yeah. Excellent. It talks in there about how managing email and how people tend to think of email as almost like a text message these days, and then social media, and it's just it's interesting. Kind of, he wrote that back in like 2010, 11 or 12, and just to kind of see it come where everything is today with the AI and people expecting immediate responses to a text message or email, and I think it can get. There's so much noise in the world. And when I go home, one of the big things that really led to that, I had social media like everyone else. I have the iPhone, and I found myself thinking during the day, like if I was if I took a picture of something, like, oh, this would make a good post, or what would I say about, and I'm like going through my day thinking like this, like in a post, like my brain is becoming like set for Instagram post. And so that bothered me a lot. And then it kind of all happened at the same time. I just finished up that deep work book. And then Erica, she just pointed out, like the next day, she said, you realize, like, you don't, every time I find you, you've got a podcast playing, or you're taking your phone with you, like you're taking it to the bathroom. It's like the first thing you check when you wake up. And I had gotten to the point where I'm like doing this, not even thinking twice about it. And then I had meditations playing in my car, one of the podcasts, but it's like in one of the audiobooks. And I heard him say, the horse does not plow the field for the pleasure of onlookers. I'm like, damn it, man. I feel like that's who I am now. Like, I'm doing everything not for myself, but I'm like trying to put it out there so that everyone knows what I'm doing. And I was trying to.
Isn't it weird that the feeling that like people want to like, because I mean, you think on like, obviously podcasts and social media and YouTube channels and this, like the more access you give people to your lives, the better you do. And then I feel like it's less of my life.
Yep.
It's kind of like, my brother made a funny comment to me once where he's like, dudes will like post a bunch of like scandalous pictures of their girlfriends and be like, oh, here's my girlfriend. And like my brother made a funny joke. He's like, well, it's not really your girlfriend. It's our girlfriend. And like, because my, I forgot what we saw on social media was somebody we know like posted something. He's like, oh. And he's like, oh, I guess she's our girlfriend now because she's sending me these too. And so like, my brother Ed, you guys haven't met my brother Ed. He is hands down one of the funniest people I know. And not only one of the smarter, like, I mean, one of the top criminal defense attorneys in all of, California, but just incredibly witty and funny. And like he said that, and he's like, anytime you put that stuff out, it's your life, but now it's our life.
Right.
And he's like, you're also inviting people into your existence, and you're asking their permission and for them to comment on things. Like, he's like, you post something and then somebody comments and like, they feel like, because you posted it, they have the right to interact and they expect you to interact. He's like, that's a weird fucking feeling. He's like, he goes, the fact that people are living their lives for a whole bunch of people that they don't know.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like,
feels fucking strange.
That's kind of the like hole I was falling through. And in my head, I'm thinking, I put a post, hey, I just read this book, great book. Here's the things I learned. And when you self-reflect on this, like, why do I care if people know the book I read?
So I disagree with you on that. I use these things as timestamps. So like somebody posted here, I'll just give you an example, right? So I read a quote the other day.
While you're doing that, I was not doing it for that reason. I was selfishly essentially putting out there,
trying
like,
to establish
look
like
how smart I am.
So no, I wasn't doing it for that, but I posted the greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be what you pretend to be. And I thought that was such an interesting quote where I was like, man, like, if we like think about all the people that are pretending to be successful or pretending to be this or pretending to be confident in this, like, what if you just lived the life of the person you were pretending to be? And like, I read that quote and I like said it to myself like 10 times and was like, fuck, dude, that is so interesting. Like, wouldn't that just be an easier thing? Like, okay, who do you like in make-believe world? Who do you want to be? Just be that person. Yeah. Like who are you pretending? Like what level of confidence in this? I mean, because they, I think it was, is it Ikigai, where it talks about like in there's like is it 3 faces or 5 faces? Yep. You have the face that you show the world. You have the face that you show the people that are closest to you, and then you have the face that
Japanese,
you show. I think it's Ikigai.
Yeah, I thought it was the heart.
Your passion. It's like your passion.
Yeah. But then there's also the face you show nobody. So like I wonder if like that face that you have inside and the one that you show the world, if you just became that person. And then I also wonder if like, people do this as a defense mechanism, but like that quote was interesting. And I did a post about it more because I want to almost have like timestamps, because I use the pictures in my phone like timestamps. Like I go back and I'll be like, oh, okay, I remember this. And I kind of periodically do it. I use Instagram in the same way. I don't post anything for like the admiration of somebody else that I don't know. Like I was telling Ben.
I think I fell down that rabbit hole. I think, and when I reflected, I'm like, that's what I'm doing. I felt a little disgusted with it. And I was like, I'm done. That's not who I am.
But it's not who you are, right? And you think about like mastery and all the things that you're doing. Like you're not doing that stuff for other people. And the fact that like you got stuck in an idea of like, man, I need to put something insightful up so people think I'm smart. Like, do not argue about what a good man is. Just be a good man. I remember my dad told me, he's like, if you have to go out of your way to prove to everybody how smart you are, you're a dumb fuck.
Yeah.
Like my dad would say things to me that were, and he's been gone a number of years, and I still think about. The other one is, if you ever find yourself holding your fan club meetings in a phone booth, you got real fucking problems. And he said that to me, and I was like, fan club meeting at a phone booth? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then years later, I was like, how many people fit in a phone booth? One. If your fan club meetings are in the phone booth. And I said that, I actually dropped that one on McQuilkin, and he was like, couldn't comprehend it. And I was like, you're going to end up there's going to be a phone booth fucking glued to your fucking front porch one of these days. But that, like, those pieces of like, you're like, I think the content that you push out, or like any of the information, like let's say you post anything, I realize it's going to a bigger audience, but I look at it like, if like you post something and tag me, you're posting it because you want me to see something. It's like an accountability. Whether or not anybody else fucking seizes it, like they don't understand the inside joke. They don't understand the ideas for it. Like if you post something, whereas I look at like what a lot of people are posting, it's like nonsense to somehow gather admiration for people they don't. I like, my shit's personal for me. Yeah. If you look at my social media and you know me, there's one perception, but if you know me, I'm sure you guys like if you see any of the shit I post, you're probably like, like this is reflective of John. But also what's wild with this podcast is I meet people all the time that start talking to me as if we're old friends. And then I realize, I'm like, oh, they listen to the podcast. And then they start talking to me about this thing. And I'm like, oh shit, I forget that there's like hundreds of hours of us fucking rambling.
Yeah. That's where I get tripped up. In fact, had a conversation on Discord about this, where I think, what are they, the parasocial relationships that come from social media, where it's like, you think you know me, but you don't really know me. You just know whatever, for instance, like we've both been on this podcast a few different times, and it's like, so people could think, okay, well, this is them, but it's like, you don't know my kids. You don't know what I do when I get home. You don't, but the people I talk to do know those things. Yeah. And so it is strange, because then you get these people interacting with you like they know you, and it's like, then you go down this like hole of like, well, is that really me? So then I get in my head, and so now,
yeah, I mean, like a side of me. You were like, you saw me at my week. The fact that your wife's in the background, she's like, this guy's a fucking mess. What the fuck is wrong with this dude? And I'm like, I remember like, I just want to cry.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's the thing. So it's weird, because if you don't have, so it's weird to have those parasocial relationships. Where it gets scary weird is if you only have parasocial relationships. Like if you don't have people that you can actually call or like go see or have actual true relationships.
That's why it's so important to come to the collective. Well, and like I appreciate you shaming people. Right? No, like in a sense you did. Like, hey, dude, we got 100 plus Block 1 coaches. Why is it that every year the same 30, 40 people show up? Yeah. Right. And like, I'm super pissed. Like Ken Quayle's not going to be here. His wife had some issues and he couldn't make it. I was like, you suck. You're one of my favorite people to see. And like, I'm stoked to see all these people. But we have, 70% of the Block 1s don't come to this thing. And like Ben's like, why aren't you guys coming to this? Yeah. You guys pay into this thing. You guys are a part of this thing. You're in the Discord. And then it's like, I think Jason Hagan was like, oh, my wife's 39 weeks pregnant. I'm like, I get that. Yeah. Like
that makes sense.
Like, dude, that's fine. But also, like your fact that you're 48 years old and have a wife who's 40 weeks pregnant, like that's a motherfucking dude. That's a whole different discussion.
Talk about sleep deprivation and age.
Oh my God. Like when he said that, I almost had a panic attack because he's my age. If all of a sudden my wife was 39 weeks pregnant and I was going to have a newborn, I mean, we had puppies and I almost fucking like broke my family to pieces. I told you the story about the puppies? No. So when the flooding happened here in Texas, they were like basically just people were dropping off animals at like kill shelters. And Kate's friend went down and was like, like there was like they were going to kill these puppies, and so she adopted 2 of them, but there was 3 more. So then Kate went down and we adopted 3 puppies. And so I come home and there's like
we adopted.
No, 3. We did not. They didn't ask me. Like,
you didn't know when you got home.
No, I came home and each of the kids were like, look at our new puppies. And I was like, I'm in caloric deficit. I can't handle this. And and it was like, and then it's like, dude, we're just going to foster them. We'll adopt them out. And then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, you don't give away puppies. Yeah. And like, this thing was like, it was melting down. Mm-hmm. And thank God we adopted them all. They all went to wonderful homes, amazing dogs, but like, it was pretty touch and go there for a minute.
Yeah. I mean,
so don't adopt puppies.
Well,
but I'm just saying, those 3 puppies were nothing compared to what it's like to have a baby.
Well, that's the thing.
And that threw me into stress because all of a sudden I'm like getting up and like taking them out, like, 3, 5 in the morning, this and feeding. I was like, this is tough.
You're in it right now with Kalani in that age where it's like,
how old is she?
She's 1.5.
So
but
now
she's
it's
sleeping
like
through the night. I mean, 7 to 7.
But the trade-off is now during the waking hours, you got to keep eyes on it all the time because they're like, go, go, go. And
well, so like DJ's going through this right now, but I'm like, you don't realize in those first couple weeks or even the first couple months how easy it is. Mm-hmm. Like you're like, oh my God, like so stressed. And then all of a sudden you get into this point where you're like, oh my God, they've been asleep for 3 months. Yeah. And then they wake up and then you realize the real fight is here.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they sleep through the night. You're like, we got this. We got a system. And then they teeth.
Yeah.
And then the teething happens and they're like up at like 2 like gnawing on everything and teething and this and drooling. Yeah. And I'm almost to the point where I'm like, dude, whatever's going on, waking up every 3 hours where they just either like cry, they're wet or they need to eat. Yeah. Like now all of a sudden you're trying to like, and that's why all these kids now have autism because these parents are just jacking them with Tylenol, which I think is even more hilarious because think about how many doses of Tylenol people have been give.
Dude, that was the solution for, I don't know, like 90% of the things growing up is like, here's the chewable. I remember the grape chewable Tylenol.
Just crazy that's what was the answer to
I don't believe it.
Year-long investigation.
No, I think what they did is that's a red herring. I think what they did is they used a scapegoat. They were like, oh, here's a drug that's been on the market for 100 years that's been used with not only like billions upon billions upon billions of dosages because they couldn't come out and say, it could be related to the vaccines or this or all these other things. Yeah. Like we're the most heavily vaccinated country in the world and we have the highest level of autism. I mean, but it was a lot easier for the drug companies to be like, say it's the Tylenol.
Yeah. Speaking of social media, this is, I think, Instagram's greatest gift is like the funny videos and clips and reels. I saw one where it was talking about this. It's like, man, autism didn't exist in the 1960s, but welcome to my mom's house with her collection of all these little tiny bells and don't touch these precious moment statues over here. These are my precious. And it's like, okay, so like this kind of stuff was around forever. Yeah. Like it's, I don't think it's Tylenol. Like,
no, I don't think it's Tylenol at all. And I think if anything you're looking at, and I mean, we had Sabine on the podcast who did the research, right? It's changes in the microbiome. It's a lack of gut diversity. And it's also the lack of bifidobacteria. Both of those are inherited from the parent. Mm-hmm. That bifidobacteria decreases over time of age. So older parents have less bifidobacteria and have less to give over to the child. And then also look at all the gut dysbiosis and all the problems. So they have low diversity. So when she went through all that stuff, all the kids that were autistic had the same signature. They all had low gut diversity, almost no bifidobacteria. And she's like, the way that they ended up taking those 2 kids, so she had 2 twin girls that were nonverbal, and she ended up treating them and raising bifidobacteria, and within 9 months they were speaking and were fine.
How much of that is them giving because they were trying to give Kalani like 2-3 months old antibiotics for like a hand-foot mouth, and I'm like, she doesn't need it.
Well, and she's just and I think the problem is that. We do that stuff because it's easier to treat the kid because then the parent doesn't have to miss work. Yeah. Well, so that's what I think a lot of this stuff comes down to is like, we'll just like dose them with something because like Kate was telling me, she's like, when I was a kid, anytime we had a sniffle, they used to give us antibiotics. That's why probably her stomach's fucked up. Yeah. Right. When she asked me,
that was us. We had pink medicine in the fridge on hand all the time.
We did not have health insurance growing up. So the only time we got to,
ironic that Canadian expats didn't have health insurance in the U.S.
So, my dad worked for himself and my dad was inherently cheap. But I thought health insurance was going and paying money at the emergency medical hospital. That's seriously, I like did not know that when I went to college. I remember I went to college and through my scholarship, they gave us health insurance. And my dad's like, hey, you have health insurance. And I was like, you mean we don't have to take like a check to the emergency medical hospital? And he's like, no, you just go to the doctor. And I was like, wait a minute, so we never had health insurance? He's like, no, I wasn't paying for that shit. Yeah. And so like we got sick, we just suffered it out. Yeah. We never took any antibiotics. We never did any of this stuff. And then when I got all my gut stuff done, Dr. Sabine's like, your gut resilience, like I'm like an 8 something, which basically makes me like a low level Hadza. Yeah. And then she's like, you have bifidobacteria, you have this. The only thing I was missing was lactobacillus, which is associated with, according to her, rheumatoid arthritis and arthritis through the body ache. That when they had people that had rheumatoid arthritis and had like a lot of like, systemic inflammation, like body ache, when they raised lactobacillus, it went away. So she's like, if you want to recover faster. And I was like, so I can eat sourdough and fermented foods at all time. And she was very impactful, but this is the danger of her in that she's a research scientist. So when she's looking at your stuff, you have to come to her with specific questions. So I think like, people will like, let's say they go through the consult and they'll be like, she's like, okay, well, here's what I found. And then they don't have the wherewithal to ask the right questions. Whereas I sit down, I'm like, well, show me a good one. Show me a bad one. What's this? What's this? And I have all of these questions like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? And she's like, oh, I can answer all these, but she's kind of like, unless you know what questions to ask. Yeah. So Kate sent one of her friends and she didn't have like a very good experience. And then I was like, man, she should have just called me and got me on the phone with her because I could have helped her navigate this thing, which is, kind of, you think in academia, research scientists, like if you don't ask me the question, I'm not going to volunteer information because I don't know what you want, what you know. And if I talk to you about it, it might be fucked up.
The gut bacteria stuff's, unless you live in that world, it's very complex.
Oh, yeah.
And it's dynamic.
And that's why when you get these people talking about, like, just flippantly talking about the biome, it's like, man.
Oh, yeah. These fitness influencers talking about the microbiome. I'm like, dude.
The amount of stuff that we don't know. Like, and they speak so assuredly.
So matter of fact. Well, so I've had Sabine on the podcast several times. I talk to her at least once a week. Having her on the podcast, obviously numerous times. Like I went out to California and went to her office and we sat down and like went through all of like all the samples, and she went through. So like we sat there for 3 hours going through everything, and then I talked to her regularly, and like her like the dynamic nature and the understanding of the microbiome, like every time I talk to her is different. And then you have to remember that like we're living in this like petri dish of environment, and like the crazier part is the people that so where people are fucking up, and this is where most of these people have no concept of the microbiome, is the microbiome is not just what you eat. Yeah. So people think about it like, oh, you eat these foods. No, it's actually the people you're in contact with, the food you eat, and the soil with the microbes that you're in contact with. So if you live in like, let's say New York City, and you never go like touch any dirt, or you constantly are wiping your hands, and you're around a bunch of like broken people who, this and this, and you're eating this, like he's like the other one she talked about is she can, a lot of the gut dysfunction she's finding is coming from Uber Eats and food delivery things. So the food is cooked. You don't know how long it's cooked. You don't know how long it's sitting in that deal. You don't know, the guy's on some moped with this and this, and she goes, you don't know how long it's sitting there. It might be 30 minutes. So a lot of the food is coming, and she's like, honestly, like the least healthy thing she's seen is from people that are eating constant like Uber Eats meal delivery.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
She said the healthiest people in the world are the ones that go buy their food, bring it home, pull it out of the refrigerator, cook it, and then eat it immediately.
Yeah.
It's too hard to do though.
I mean, it is, dude. No, I think like with the antibiotic stuff, our youngest daughter had ear infections a lot, so she had to end up getting tubes. And that's something where it's like, man, because I wrestle with it a lot. My wife kind of understands, like, she doesn't know the body stuff, so she kind of defaults to me. And it's like, yeah, I think we went through like 3 or 4 ear infections where they put her on antibiotics, and we just tried to like dose a ton of yogurt, it's like, let's try and combat this. Then finally we got to, I think, the 5th ear infection in a year. And I was like, can we just put tubes in? And they're like, well, we like to wait. And it's like, man, I would much rather risk like whatever negative could come from putting tubes in too early than just keep pumping her full of this. Because
you guys should have called Doris Waldman and done the old time Canadian remedy for that, which was
yell at your kids.
No, well, that too. Rubbing alcohol. So after we get out of the shower in the pool, we would have to go over and she would take rubbing alcohol in a dropper and put it in your ears because the rubbing alcohol just basically dissolves all the water. So my older brother had ear infections, and so we ended up like every time we got out of the pool, every time we shower, we'd have to do it, and ended up with no ear infections.
Really?
And so she was like, yeah, these people like getting pumped with these things and like, giving them antibiotics and, they're going down with their fancy doctors with all these tubes in the ears. We're just going to stick rubbing alcohol in your ear. Hey. So the funny part, my brother Ed and I laugh about this shit constantly. And he's like, we never had any health insurance. And he's like, you remember mom used to put that fucking rubbing alcohol in her ears? And so we tell these jokes about growing up like that. And I'm like, maybe this is just like how the majority of the world lived for a long time before they started going to fucking doctors.
But this is kind of my bigger view on this. And it's kind of, I guess, morbid or whatever, but it's like modern medicine has done a lot of great things, but it's also extended the lifespan of, frankly, genetic lines that wouldn't have extended.
Are you calling it genetic garbage?
Well, it's just like, people always like to cite, they use the fallacy of like appeal to nature, where they're like, back in the day we didn't have this issue, and it's like, back in the day lifespan was like a half to a quarter of what it is now. And so
do you really think that's the case, that lifespan was that I've read such conflicting things over the years where they obviously lifespan was, let's say, I'll just give you an example, right? Like I read a cool story about it was around Teddy Roosevelt, right? Time, which would that have been, like the 20s? I think it was after World War I. There was a pretty famous general that was from Kansas City, and he got deployed and went overseas and came back, and his two boys decided they want to go meet him. So the two boys were like 10 and 11. They basically stole a car and drove from Kansas City to like Georgia, and the car broke down, and then they somehow finagled horses and rode horses and met their father in DC by themselves. And like they had this amazing story, and then Teddy Roosevelt let them ride, and then they said, okay, cool, we're headed home. And they rode home. And these boys were like, 10 and 11 years old. And like, it's a pretty amazing story if you ever go through and read it. I need to chronicle it a little bit better. But like, I think the problem is that like people lived such a more adventurous life that like, all of a sudden, like, you're 10 years old and you're basically traveling by yourself on horseback. All of a sudden you're 30, you might as well be 400.
Yeah.
Right. Or you think about like, people dying in this just from the fact that like we lived in just like such a less, I guess, safe environment.
So I think that's part of it, but I just think of where we are now in terms of not necessarily the chronic diseases, like the obesity related disease and stuff, but just in general. I had a professor in my undergrad, and she essentially said, timeline long enough, everybody's going to die from cancer. And this was like back in 2004.
It's either cancer or heart attack.
Well, and that's the thing now, heart attack because all these chronic diseases, but her point was essentially like, if the timeline is long enough, something is going to fail, and at the very least, it's going to be your cellular level. And so, I don't know if it was necessarily lifespan was half, but I think of when some of those diseases onset, when you're 60, 70, right, and how much we can extend people now with those conditions because of medicine, whereas 100 years ago,
that's it.
It would have been it, right? And so,
my mom and I had this conversation. Now, mind you, my mom was going to live to be 200 years old because people like her don't die. She's going to be like who was a Methuselah, Noah's grandfather, who just basically just goes to heaven. But my mom's 86, and she's like, how does this end? Like, that's an interesting thing. She's like, do I just keep doing this until I don't do it anymore? I'm like, yeah, that's how the world works. And she's like, I know, but how does this end? And there's no part of this ending that looks good.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's not like you just kind of like decide like to float off to bed one day and then you just don't wake up. She's like, it's kind of fucking terrible to get to this point.
Well, because there's stress every day. Like, and that's, my dad used to work with people. He's like a money manager for folks with their retirement. And he would say he could tell the second people retired what kind of, like, if it was going to be a quick or a long life, because it's like, what are you going to do? And the people who had a plan who were like, oh, I'm going to go and like do this, go travel or start this hobby or something. Those people would continue to live. But the people are like, just want to relax for a couple of years. My dad would be like, they're going to be dead. Yeah. Like 10 years at most. And because it's like, yeah, like, what do you do? Like, and then you kind of get in that mindset.
So I coined this years ago that the day you stop being useful, you become useless. And then that's when in David Sinclair's book, Lifespan, he had, and there was a cool passage. I don't believe much of the book, I think, was I couldn't get behind. And the reason being is he started talking about leg training is training your thighs. You need to make sure that your thighs are always very strong.
Well,
so
you should have strong thighs. I mean.
Instantly, any man that talks about lifting weights is training your thighs. Your credibility goes to fucking nil. Yeah. And I couldn't even read the book after that. I was like, fucking, this guy's an idiot. And then also the fact that he's like 1 meal a day, vegan, like just everything I fucking know. I'm like, okay, let's say you improve the quality or improve the length of your life by like 1 or 2 days. When they looked at all the rat studies by starving yourself, and then you're just basically, I would rather not be fucking starving myself and die 2 days earlier, right? Like miserable. But he did have an interesting piece where they talked about positive gene expression in the face of different like hormetic stressors, right? Like, why is it that like getting into a sauna works the way it does? Like that hormetic stress of like, you get into this feeling of like, I got like, we were in our sauna, it was like 194, Ben and I, you got to the point where I knew that the 10 minutes was up, but like for some reason the alarm didn't go off, and I stood up and I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I'm at 10 minutes. And we went out and it was rated 10 minutes. And I know what my limit is. But that moment of like, I have to get out of here, I'm going to die. What happens is the body has positive gene expression. Like, oh, we're in the fight together. Let me help this guy. Yeah. And so same with cold exposure, same with exercise. Like think about like you're, doing the 150 kettlebell swings and you get to that point where you're like, you take that little like hit where you're like, holy fuck, dude, like this is getting fucking serious.
All I can think about is my thighs are getting trained right now.
Yeah. When that fucking guy said thighs, I literally like closed the book and I just like put it over here and I like had it for like 3 months. And then finally I was like, I got to get through this. I can't fucking, and every time I see his little like mousy, wormy fuck voice talk on anything, I'm just like, thighs. Yes. This guy trains his thighs.
You know what your algorithm's going to be full of now?
Thighs?
Just thighs. Just some trained thighs.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, somebody should have been like, hey, nerd, get over here. Don't say thighs.
Yeah.
But he did have that interesting point of like, these different hormetic stressors have positive gene expression. If you lay on the couch in comfort all the time, you know what the body thinks? Fucking kill this dude. And then now you get negative gene expression. And that's why comfort kills and all this. And that's why the people that don't do shit, like they end up fucking going out much faster. Like the people that are in the fight, like my mom, who will be angry about what I have no idea if she's still angry about, but she will be angry. My brother Ed's like, she's going to live to be 200. I'm like, dude, she's going to live us all. For the fact that like, you have to be like, you have to wake up and be David MCK. You have to feel aggrieved.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and I think that's the beauty of, bringing things full circle. We were talking about like caloric restriction, like that keeps your body on its toes, right? Sends just enough stress to where your body has to like ramp some things up, keep things dialed in, training, things like that. And so it's so simple to do these things, but people get so in the weeds about the specific stressors. And it's like, man, you just got to stress it, however you're going to stress it. And that's where, someone who does, he's like the balance of me on Discord, like Direct gets on there and talks with people all the time where it's like, hey man, like zoom out, like stress is stress. Yeah. Like you're trying to do all of this training and all these high level programs, and you got all these life stresses. And it's like, if people can just understand how easy it is to just turn those dials a little bit and still maintain, like I think that's the key to all this. I don't know why I brought that up, but it's just like a light bulb moment while you're talking about that. It's like, man, this is just so simple. Like introduce stress, your body's going to adapt. Like our bodies are really resilient at that kind of stuff. And it doesn't have to get too complicated. It's just simple.
Yeah.
But also using your body in interesting ways. Like that's the thing I really like about JITS is that the athletic problem solving.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
Like the cognitive ability. So like, okay, so now I have some form of, I have some form of task-oriented thing that I have to be able to execute. I have to be able to move my body in defense in this. And if I don't do it, I end up fucking in a bad position, and then we tap and we start over, right? So there's like a learning component. But you also have to go in and train. You got to be in shape. I mean, there's like a lot of these different pieces. But like the comfort I feel from getting in the cold water does nothing in terms of like gene expression. I just like getting in there because it's like cools everything. But that fucking sauna, I like dread going in there. Like I say to my wife, I'm like, you get in the sauna? She's like, yeah. I'm like, just leave it on. And if it's on, I'll be like, in my mind, I'll be like, okay, this thing was expensive. I need to get in there. If she doesn't turn it on, I don't turn that motherfucker on.
But the thing is, like with that and with each of these stressors, this is where, JITS is really interesting because it's the dynamic nature of it presents like novel situations regularly. Like you could be doing it for years and it's like you find yourself in positions that are just a little bit different. You have to solve that problem just a little bit differently. But when we talk about like gym training, and this is something that the Hammer 90 group has been these last couple of weeks just crushing it on, is like how many times, so 150 kettlebell swings show up. How many times have the person who sees that in their training program grab the same kettlebell that they've grabbed for the last 2 years every time that shows up, and they just do it, right? And it's like, that's not stressing your body anymore. Like it's kind of stressing your body, but like you have to progress all these stressors. So same thing, like with the sauna, the progression might be much slower, but like at some point 10 minutes will need to go to 11 minutes, right? And at some point, with your diet, like you'll have to drop another couple hundred calories at some point to maintain that stress. And I think that's where people get tripped up, is they are doing things, but they're mistaking like the activity for achievement, right? And it's like, you're not doing new things. You're not trying to make this a little bit harder or a little bit more stressful or things like that. And they get comfortable behind the facade of doing what once was a hard thing, right? And to the rest of the world, like people who are listening to this, forget, like you're probably the outlier because the majority of the world is not getting in their garage and banging weights.
You mean they're not following a power athlete program and fucking suffering through this on a fucking Discord, just getting fucking fucking accused of being the Temu version of other parts of themselves?
Maybe.
God damn it. Well, dude, I think we're going to end it there. And but dude, thank you guys so much for being on Power Athlete Radio. I'm really excited to hear your talks. So, dude, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Power Athlete Radio. This episode of Power Athlete Radio is powered by Train Heroic, the most immersive strength training app experience on the market. We've built an online training business by partnering with Train Heroic to deliver all of our world-class training programs like Jack Street, Hammer, Field Strong, and Grindstone. To learn which Power Athlete training program best suits your goals, head to powerathletehq.com/training. And if you're a coach looking to build a business with the best training tech in the business, head to trainheroic.com/powerathletehq. And now back to the show. Hey there, Power Athlete Nation. Big shout out to all the heavy hitters who stuck around till the final whistle. If you've been soaking in the knowledge bombs and epic tales we've been dropping for free, here's your chance to be a game changer. Swing by kofi.com/powerathlete and toss a few bucks our way to keep the podcast fueled and firing on all cylinders. That's ko-fi.com/power athlete. Your support makes a difference. See ya.